Say good afternoon, everybody. I say good afternoon, everybody. That's better. Thank you for joining us for this exciting and much anticipated ceremonial Washington. I'm sorry.
Go sit down, please. Go sit down. Go sit down.
Okay.
Go sit down. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police dedication ceremony for this wonderful newly renovated police memorial fountain, originally built in 1942, and the new memorial wall engraved with our fallen. Traditionally, the Master of Ceremonies opens the event. Today, there's a reason for me to open it. My name's Don Blake, and I'm the founder and president of the D.C. Police Memorial and Museum Incorporated. Thank you. Pat Collins, our Master of Ceremonies, is known to many in the Washington, D.C. area as a longtime journalist and news celebrity with WRC Channel 4 News. I call him a celebrity because few words can really describe what Pat did for a living. He was a performer and comedian in his own mind, keeping his audiences informed but laughing. Pat leaves the news industry with a wide-ranging portfolio. While his eccentric coverage gained him local notoriety, his reporting often gained him national recognition. He covered politics, scandals, and crime. But by his own career description, he said, "I cover murders and I measure snow." His enthusiastic wielding of his snow stick, crazy hats, costumes, and theatrical delivery on camera endeared audiences for nearly 5 decades. From Las Vegas dressed as Elvis Presley to the reading of the story "Twas the Night Before Christmas," Pat was a man about town. Even Chief Conti made a YouTube impression of Pat when he retired. Chief, I think maybe you missed your calling, but Pat was the MC for our groundbreaking ceremonies, and since then he retired after 50 years in journalism. Pat and I have a few things in common. Like me, he was born and raised in D.C., I in Southeast, and he in Northeast. During my time, our high schools were big football rivals, with an emphasis on during my time. I graduated in 1960 from Anacostia High School, and Pat from the prestigious St. John's College High School, and Pat later went on to Notre Dame. My first job was delivering newspapers for the Washington Daily News. Pat's first job was writing for the Washington Daily News. Throughout his career, he told stories that broke your heart, cracked you up, or left you in tears of sorrow or laughter. They say the entire newsroom would often stop to watch a Collins piece as it aired. Pat, regarding your yardstick, I hope you never have to use it again. We thank you for your consistently reporting honestly and truthfully, and by adding some humor to it. Chief Conti will now make a presentation.
All right, Pat. Wow. So one of the things that we've become accustomed to over his 50 years is, his love for hats. And I think we all will agree that Pat has worn some hats over the course of his time with Channel 4. So we thought it'd be fitting, especially with us all being here for our police memorial celebration, that we add this hat to your collection, Pat.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Don't try to put that on your head, okay? So the cap plate, Pat, in front of the cap plate, the badge number is 1861. It's the year the Metropolitan Police Department was founded. So we would like to present this to you, Pat, again, to add to your collection. Now, I don't want to see you measuring snow in this hat, but please wear it with pride, knowing that the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department are just really, really thankful, man, for your years of service, Pat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
One more. Just nice show. Thank you, Chief. Let's everybody give a big round of applause for our MC, Mr. Pat Collins. Now you can talk.
Well, whoa. Oh, we missed the mic. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't expect that. It's very nice. Thank you so much. Thank all of you, especially Chief Conti. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. And Mayor, you're still here. I hope you miss me. Can I say one thing before we start? Mayor, you want to bring people back to the city of Washington. So do I. Go to the new owners of that football team. Cut the deal. Bring that team back to our city where it belongs, and people will follow them over and over by the thousands. Cut the deal, Mayor. Okay. All my opening remarks, Don just took care of. Chief, do I get a badge with that? Something? That's very nice. I'll put it, I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the front seat of my car because you never know somebody's seat. 1861, that is not the year I started this business, although sometimes it feels that way. All right, let's get going. Please stand for the presentation of colors by the D.C. Police Department's Ceremonial Honor Guard and the singing of the national anthem by Sergeant Antonio McKnight.
Team, up, order, on. Ready? Cut. Right shoulder, on. Ready? Cut. Breathe in, on.
For so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleam, what bright and bright sun through the perilous tide, o'er the ramparts we watch, were so gallant. And the rocket's battler, the monsters singing air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say just as the spangled banner yet waves, for the land of the free and the house of the brave.
Shoulder, up. Order, up. Cut. Court. On. Color.
Very nice, Sergeant McKnight, color guard. Please remain standing. Father Sal is going to give us the invocation.
Thank you. Here's your script.
Let us now bow our heads in prayer. God our Father, today as we dedicate this memorial, we remember the families who have been left behind. We let them know that their loved ones will never be forgotten. Lord of all, give the loved ones the strength that they need to carry on in their faith and in their courage. Heavenly Father, we give thanks today as our Creator and the many blessings you have bestowed upon us. We remember the 125 officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in this memorial. We remember their lives, their service, their commitment to our nation's capital. These men and women today and always will be remembered for the ultimate sacrifice that they have made. Let this memorial be a constant reminder to all who pass by of their sacrifice. We give thanks to all who have made this dream become a reality. It started years ago, and today we see the end result. We make this prayer today, as we do always, as loyal and faithful servants called upon to do your will. In his name, let us pray. Amen.
Thank you, Father Sal. You may be seated now. I'd like to acknowledge a few special guests that have joined us today. First and foremost, the families, the survivors of the men and women whose names are on the wall. Please stand. Family members, thank you. We're so proud, we're so thankful of what those men and women have done for us in our city. Now they'll be memorialized in a proper way. City officials, I don't recognize any city officials here, except one. I got to tell you this, you know, I've been to many homicide scenes in this city, unfortunately. And I've stood in the blood-stained pavement, the streets of our city, and I've always seen two people at those scenes, Chief Conti and Mayor Bowser. They know firsthand what the violence has done to our city, and I know they're working real hard to tamp it down. I just wish I could see more city officials at these scenes so they could understand what violence does and how it cuts to the heart and soul of our city. I wish I could see more council members at those scenes, perhaps even more prosecutors at those scenes, and maybe even a few judges at those scenes so they get a first-hand look at what the violence is doing to our city. I guess I should recognize a few people here today. You've already heard from Chief Conti, and he's going to be speaking in a few minutes. I see Chief Tom Manger. Tom Manger was the police chief in Fairfax County. He was the police chief in Montgomery County. He's now the U.S. Capitol Police Chief, and I think he's just applied to become the next Attorney General of the United States. He's going to have more retirement checks coming in than you can shake a stick at. He's going to have more retirement checks coming in than Neil Trugman. Well, maybe a couple more. All right. Where's Chief Newsom? Pete Newsom? Oh my God. So we had a chief here named Newsom, and he decided one day that he wanted to go country on us. So he turned in his DC badge, and he turned in his shiny black DC shoe. Got some cowboy boots, got a horse, and then went to Prince William County, where I think they've had, what, 3 or 4 felonies in the last 10 years. I expect Newsom will be retiring soon, and maybe he'll become a U.S. Marshal. Nice to see you, Chief. What are you doing to stay active? I don't know. Is there any other chief here that I missed? Where's Fred Thomas? Oh my God. Fred Thomas. I didn't recognize you. See, you're in your civvies. Oh yeah, Fred. Looking good, Fred. I like the sweater. Hang on to that. Any other chiefs out there? Oh, Chief, how are you? Very good, very good. Anne Arundel County, Maryland, Chief. You better watch out, because Newsom will be looking for that job down in Anne Arundel County. What have you had, like 1 homicide in the last 10 years? Do you have a crab squad down there in Anne Arundel County? Oh my God, hold on. That's all right, it didn't break. It's not going to be the Liberty Bell by the time it's over. All right, is there anybody else I missed? Oh, Don Graham. Well, Don Graham, former D.C. police officer, but he was the big money man behind this whole project. He is a true, honored D.C. resident. Don has helped us out in many, many causes in this city. His heart and soul is with this city, and I really appreciate everything you've done, as everybody has. Don, welcome here. Don Graham. All right. She's here. It's her turn. A long time ago, I presented her with a official Pat Collins snow stick. I did it on the deck of my house up in Northwest in Ward 4 or 3 or whatever that ward is up there. Okay. Let's hear it now for the Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I am honored to represent all Washingtonians at this memorial today, as I have done for many of my years of public service. To be here shoulder to shoulder with the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department, but also the men and women in law enforcement from around our entire region. We are very grateful to the foundation, to Don Graham, and to all involved in bringing this beautiful memorial to life. I asked the chief when I sat down, does the fountain work? And of course, like so many things, this renovation includes making sure that the sounds and the peacefulness of this place are preserved. I too want to acknowledge our Chief Conti, for 33 years of dedicated service to the Metropolitan Police Department. You may know the chief's story, that he started as a MPD cadet at the age of 17, and MPD has been his only employer. And by God's grace, he has had an outstanding career and will move on to serve our nation in the FBI. So thank you for your service, Chief. Peter Newsom is here. I had also the privilege of appointing Peter as the Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department, and am proud to call him a friend. Deputy Mayor Lindsay Appiah, who helps lead my efforts for public safety across all of our public safety agencies. Outstanding lawyer and leader in public safety. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As well, Pat, we have a council member in the House. Your council member, Matt Fruman. So, Matt, I want to recognize you and thank you for being here. And I want to acknowledge also Mark Toohey, who I see, who has been an incredible supporter of our police department. So Pat's words were remarkable for a number of reasons. He's supposed to be retired, but he may be talking himself into an appointment in the Bowser administration. But he is also right in talking about the toll that crime can take on a community and how important it is for all public safety partners to be working in the same direction. I was proud when the chief said about me last week that I have been a supporter of law enforcement since I was the ANC commissioner. And a steadfast supporter of making sure that we have a policy environment in this city that supports safety. And I believe my job is to listen to the professionals who do the job, who are on the streets, who are in the courtrooms, who are in and out of homes in our city. And so when they say we need this number of police officers, that's the number of police officers that we need. When they say these are the operational strategies that we need, those are the operational strategies that we need. We shouldn't second guess the people who are doing the job each and every day, and by the way, putting their lives on the line to do it. So here we recognize the sacrifice of men and women who woke up to do their job. They went to do their job. They put their own life on the line to keep our community safe. And their families got a call that they wouldn't make it home. So I know I speak for all the leadership of MPD that we take seriously our responsibility as leaders to make sure that we're creating a public safety environment where people want to come to work at MPD to do their job, and the chiefs from around the region, I'm sure, share the sentiment as well as the public officials. And we're doing our level best to make sure that they get home at night. So I recognize the solemnness of this place and the seriousness of my job in making sure that we have safe communities and a place where law enforcement and our police can do their jobs and go home. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope I don't have to see you on the mean streets for many, 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 many days and years to come. But if it snows, that's a different story. So, what can I say about Chief Conti? Well, he was born in the city of Washington, raised in the city of Washington. I think he was born and raised not too far from where I grew up in the city of Washington. He is homegrown. He's a good cop. He's a good leader. And the city has benefited from his leadership. And we're sorry to see him go. But things change. Opportunities change. And so, bittersweet, I welcome and say goodbye at the same time to Chief Robert Conti.
Thank you so much, Pat. You know, the mayor mentioned that, I started as a police cadet at 17 years of age, and that is true. But I got to tell you, there's a special guest here today that actually inspired me from elementary school, and that is my elementary school SRO. He's 85 years old now, and that's Officer Joe Burton sitting right there. Give that man a round of applause. That was my elementary school, Charles Young Elementary. That was my SRO. And I tell you, that man inspired so many kids from Carver Terrace to move on and to do some great things in life. So, Joe, I just want to publicly acknowledge you for your service. Thank you. You were one of the first people who reached out to me when I became the chief. And I want to thank you for showing up here today, man, in support of our fallen brothers and sisters. It means the world to me to see you here today, Joe. So again, give him another round of applause, man. Thank you. The memorial behind me is a sacred place where each year we remember our fallen heroes who sacrificed their lives while serving the residents and visitors of the District of Columbia. The hardest part of this job is hearing the final call for service for one of our brothers or sisters who lost their lives serving our city. It makes me think of how devastated their loved ones are, colleagues, or anyone who has or was touched by them. This memorial is part of our grieving process. It honors those we lost far too soon. It reminds everyone who sees it how courageous each person on this wall is. Over the years, this memorial has served as a rallying point for us to remember our fallen heroes. Today, I am excited to be part of the dedication of this renovated fountain and new memorial wall for MPD's 125 fallen police officers. Each one of these inscribed names represents a lost officer and a story. Some of their lives were lost to gun violence, others to assault or illness. Despite the cause, they will be honored by this memorial fountain and wall for years to come. It will acknowledge their ultimate sacrifice and help tell their stories despite them not being here with us today. Through this project, we were able to preserve our history and enhance this memorial with a new wall. Now, MPD family and friends will have a respectable place of our own that acknowledges each fallen hero by name and date of death. I want to thank those who share a family member or friend with us every day. You support us through good and not so good times. Our profession is not easy and can be tough on those we love most. Our job can at times be dangerous, but it is a rewarding profession, a passion for many of us that is worth the personal risk and sacrifice. You have made sacrifices because of our chosen profession, but your support for this profession and for your loved ones helps us to do our jobs and come home every day. I want to take this time to thank everyone who, over the last 13 years this has been in the making, ensured that we would be here today to see these renovations and the new memorial wall. A special thank you to retired Lieutenant Don Blake and his wife Terry. I learned last night that this really started out with Don's wife and Don coming past here and seeing the condition of this memorial. And Don's wife said to him, "You need to do something about this." And so for the next 13 years, he's dedicated himself to rallying people around the building of this wall and this memorial. So Don, I want to publicly acknowledge you and your wife. In addition to that, and I don't know if he's here, but retired Assistant Chief Bill Sarvis. If he's not here, just give him a round of, there he is. When Bill was with the Metropolitan Police Department, he had retired and come back in a civilian capacity, but he was over one of the offices here in the Metropolitan Police Department, the corporate support space. Bill was responsible for helping Don to navigate all the legal processes and government to really remove the barriers. I learned last night that there were times when we took a step forward and 2 steps back. Bill was the guy that was helping to really navigate that. So Bill, thank you. It means the world that you were able to really help in this space. And last but certainly not least, to Don Graham. Don, let's give Don a round of applause. Without his money, But Don, on a serious note, I just want to personally thank you for your dedication. I know that you have a heart for public safety. When I learned, Don, that, you know, as a police officer, you patrolled the neighborhood, you know, where I was a kid, you know, growing up, man, working over there in the 5th District so many years ago. But it means the world to me that you would still think that much of your police officers here in the nation's capital, in your city, where you were born and raised, to support us in this endeavor, to build this beautiful wall. And I've had the privilege over the last few months to watch this really come to life from my office, man. And I got to tell you, it's an incredible thing, and it means so much to so many people. So thank you, Don. Give him a round of applause again, please. At this time, I'm going to ask that you please join me in a brief moment of silence for our fallen members who gave their lives and made the ultimate sacrifice. I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you to the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Memorial and Museum for maintaining the legacy of our law enforcement family with this beautiful, beautiful renovated memorial and wall. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief. It looks good, doesn't it? It's classy. It's fitting of and appropriate for all the people who made that sacrifice for our city. You know, they ought to take every cadet who signs up for this department down here to visit this, because it shows that when you give that ultimate sacrifice for the city, we don't forget as a city that you're here in perpetuity, and we appreciate that. We remember you. We remember the sacrifices, and we remember the sacrifices your families have made because of what you've done. Well, you've heard the story about how it all came about, but now here's the man, the architect, if you will, of the man who made it happen. Let's hear it for Don Blake.
Thank you very much, Pat. Deep down, I was never sure this project would be completed in my lifetime. But as Chief Cullinane always told me, you're the most stubborn Irishman I've ever met in my life. I am confident you will finish this, and he was so pleased that his friend Don Graham stepped in to help. Cully was so looking forward to this day. There are some special people in the audience that I must recognize. They, along with others, are listed in the program. I hope I did not miss anyone. Now, I'm no fool, so I will first thank my wife. My wife of 53 years in July, Terry Blake, mother of my 2 daughters, Colleen and Tori, and my son-in-law who is with us today. I'd like you all to stand. As you've heard already, Terry is the primary reason I started this project after we visited the memorial one Sunday afternoon in October of 2010. And what we saw and what we smelled was deplorable. And Terry said, "Don, this fountain is disgusting. You must do something about it." The rest is history, and here we are 13 years later. But I know over those 13 years, she regretted those words many, many times. Gary Hankins, who's not with us today, of the Association of Retired Police. Gary could not be with us today, and we are praying for him and his wife, Janet. I thank Gary and the Association of Retired Police Officers, many of whom are here today, for their support from the beginning. And I invite all members of the AORP to stand. Thank you. Is Tom Gallagher here? Tom Gallagher, okay. Well, Tom was the principal at E&G Group, and He started out with us and he taught me a lot about government expertise and about city politics, and he introduced me to Chairman Phil Mendelson, who pledged his support. I missed those breakfast meetings. How about Tarika Gibson? Is she here? Oh, I'm sorry. Tarika is the daughter of the late Shirley Gibson, the mother of fallen officer, Master Patrol Officer Brian Gibson. Shirley is known to many as Mama Gibson, who for 20 years opened her home to the MPDC for her homemade Christmas dinners. And I can testify those are some good meals. I'll say more about Shirley in a few minutes. Mr. Joe Sanchez, who could not be with us today, his wife was admitted to the hospital 2 nights ago with heart problems. We're praying for her speedy recovery, and we thank you for your expertise. You're a true expert in government contracting and construction. All one must do is look next door to the Moultrie Courthouse and to all the surrounding courthouses for the renovations and your expertise. When Joe was there, he never exceeded their budget or missed a construction due date. Now that's unheard of. I'm sure the mayor can testify to that. Mr. Hani Hassan, chief architect of the project and director of Buyer, Blender, and Bell. Hani, I saw you earlier. Oh, there he is. Thank you. I appreciate your patience in developing this beautiful and final product. You've done good, Hani. Bob Newman, Zell Partners, JM Zell Partners, I'm sorry. Please stand. And thank you for your oversight and support on this project. For Graham Holdings, in support of Graham Holdings, you cut through many red tapes and got the job done on time. Ms. Pinky Mayfield, please stand. Vice President, Corporate Affairs, Chief Communications Officer for Graham Holdings. Thank you for your friendship and for the behind-the-scenes help, especially when it came to crunch time. You're the best. Thank you. Sharon Wagner. Where's Sharon? I know she's here. Stand up, Sharon. Don't be shy. Thank you. Sharon was essential help in ensuring all of the names, suffixes of our fallen were correct. This is so important as we witnessed with the unforgivable mistakes made with the Korean War Memorial. And that's a disgrace. Sharon discovered the Find a Grave website, and in one case she spotted the last name was different than the name of record. We all agreed that the family who made the gravestone knew best, so we changed his name and it was I forget now. I just lost it. It was something. Anyway, it was an Irish name and there was a prefix in front of the name. I'm sorry. You already heard about Bill Sarvis, but I'm going to repeat it. Assistant Chief Bill Sarvis, retired, who returned to the Corporate Support Bureau as its director. Bill is now fully retired. Bill, please stand or raise your hand. A loud shout out for Bill. Bill was formerly a cadet, like Chief Conti. Bill worked for me when I was in the robbery squad. He worked his way from a cadet to an assistant chief. I wish I could take credit for that Bill's success, but what can I say? Without Bill Sarvis, this project would still be on the drawing boards. Bill got us through the many hurdles of the D.C. government's rules and regulations until we finally received the necessary approvals from many different heads and attorneys of the district government. Trust me, this was no easy feat. A huge thank you, Bill. Huge. I would be remiss if I did not thank the former Chief of Police, Maurice de Cullinane, known to many as Cully. I can't express how sad I am that Cully did not live to see this event. I'm sure he's looking down with that big Irish smile. Cully unexpectedly passed on March 2nd, 2023. He was a giant of a man who was everything the Metropolitan Police stood for, and like several of us, he was a product of this city. I do not know any chief who followed Cully that did not seek his guidance. One of the first calls they made was to Maurice Cullinane. I had planned to publicly thank him for his continued support and advice. I want everyone to know he was my guiding light and kept me on track. In a note from Mr. Graham, Don thanked me for our lunches and said he had been privileged to have known Maurice Cullinane. Mr. Graham, Cully had been looking forward to our next luncheon and attending this event. Cully, we love you, and so many miss you. The best compliment a police officer can hear is when they are described as a cop's cop. Cully was a cop's cop, but Cully was also a chief's chief. Rest in peace, my friend. I must thank all of my family, my lifelong friends, and former D.C. firefighter Frank Principe, Van Yorkhoff, who flew up here from Florida, my Regency of Dominion Valley, neighbors and friends who are here, my band of brothers from the 14th Precinct Detective's Office, the Robbery Squad detectives, and my Diplomatic Security Service colleagues for being here today. I'm so appreciative that you're all here and supported me over all of these years. This is special. Chief of Police Conti, another person who immediately reached out to Cully when he became chief. Thank you for your support and the help for this day to come true. God bless you, and God bless all the members of the MPD, past, present, and future, for their service to the city I was born and raised in, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Chief, we wish you success as you embark on your new career as an assistant director with the FBI. You are the first I ever heard of starting out as an assistant director. And to the board members for supporting this project and me. Without your help and support, we would have died a long time ago. They are all listed in the program, but I would like them all to stand. Chief Robert Conti, ex officio member. Robert Arscott, Vice President and representing the AARP. Danny Gregg, Treasurer, representing the Police Federal Credit Union. Hector Dittamo, Secretary, representing concerns of police survivors. Nick Brule, Director and Representative of the National Law Enforcement Memorial. Joe Gentile, Director representing Crime Solvers. Bonnie Cannon, Director representing the FOP Auxiliary. Clay Golston, Director representing the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. Patrick Burke, Director representing DC Police Foundation, and Jeffrey Eli, the Director representing Graham Holdings. Thank you all. And most importantly, Mr. Don Graham, who without you, sir, we would not be here today. Please stand to be recognized. Don is the principal donor for this renovation of the memorial fountain and the police memorial wall. And by the way, this fountain can now run year-round, except when it gets too cold. But before, we had to turn it off after each ceremony, and they had to jump through the hoops to get it working each year. No more. Everything is brand new. Don is the majority owner of chairman of Graham Holdings Company. Many of you know is the former owner and publisher of the Washington Post, and later was the lead independent director of the Facebook's board of directors. I know I voiced these same words at our groundbreaking, but they bear repeating. As part of his learning the ways of the world, after graduation from college, Don volunteered for military service, something we know he did not have to do. He served in the Vietnam War from 1967 to 1968 as part of the United States Army Elite 1st Cav Division. After Don's military service to our country, from January 69 to June 70, Don joined the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia. After completing the standard MPD training academy, he was assigned to the 9th Precinct in Northeast Washington, where he walked the beat, worked in the station, rode in the scout car and the patrol wagon. For a little over a year, learning the ways of life as a cop on the streets of D.C. From a crime and policing standpoint, the 9th Precinct was a tough precinct. Mr. Graham, thank you for serving our country, and we thank you for serving this city. I would be remiss if I did not mention your support for multiple charities in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas. Please join me in a loud applause for everything he's done to make this day come true. Don, please step forward and make a few remarks.
Thank you, Don. Thank you so much. Thank you, Don. Mayor Bowser, Chief Conti, in a shameless bid for popularity, I will be brief. As Don said, many years ago, in 1969 and 70, I served as a patrolman with the Metropolitan Police Department, never advancing in rank beyond private. I am thus the lowest ranking ex-cop to speak today. As the Washington Post sometimes observed over the years, in my long ago precinct, not all officers were perfect, but I rode or walked with every one. And among the patrolmen I served with were some of the wisest and best people I ever met. Each one reported for his or her shift, knowing that their job would require going into danger on behalf of the citizens of Washington, D.C. The same is true of every officer opening the door of the scout car or going out on the footbeat this evening and today. On behalf of those who have served and of the officers who serve today, I'm pleased to thank Don Blake and his committee who planned and pushed forward this memorial. I do want to recognize my two colleagues, Pinky Mayfield and Jeff Eli, Pinky's possibly next to Mayor Bowser, the best known person in the audience to DC leaders, and Jeff has been the leader of our company's construction efforts, and in part thanks to him and the team he brought to the task, this project has come in on time, a small miracle in the capital of the United States of America. As Chief Conti perfectly said, this is a sacred place. It should never have been allowed to deteriorate into the condition in which Don Blake found it 13 years ago. And that will never be the case again. We have raised the money, we hope, for permanent maintenance of it. Thank you, Don. Thank you, every single one of you who contributed to this project. It is a fit memorial now to those whom we owe so much more than we can express. Thank you.
There are three kinds of people in the world. There are the wolves and there are the sheep. And then there are the protectors, like the police, who protect the sheep from the wolves. I started this effort in 2010 to renovate the unsightly, some say deplorable, police memorial fountain built in 1942 by the citizens and business community to honor the MPD fallen that sits in front of this now historic Metropolitan Police Department headquarters that's behind me, also known as the Daley Building. To design and build a befitting memorial wall in honor of all those who made the ultimate sacrifice, with their names inscribed on the granite wall, and to partner with the department to reopen and operate the D.C. Police Museum to educate our children, our residents, and the visitors to our nation's capital about the unique and rich history of the D.C. Police Department, founded by President Abraham Lincoln on August 6, 1861. I am pleased to report we have accomplished all of our goals. Marty had been walking, I'm sorry, skip the page. During my 22-year career, there were 30 D.C. Metropolitan Police officers killed in the line of duty. Several were friends. Think about that. 30 police officers killed in 22 years. The first officer killed during my watch was Officer Martin Donovan of the 2nd Precinct, the same precinct I was assigned. The shooting took place about 11 p.m. Wednesday, July 9th, 1964, on 14th Street Northwest, just south of Thomas Circle. Marty had been walking his footbeat and had stopped to talk to a newspaper vendor when suddenly, without warning, a crazed man came charging at him like a football player. Marty, a large man who stood over 6 feet tall, was knocked off balance and fell to the ground. The man reached for Marty's gun, and with superhuman strength, he was able to rip the pistol from its holster with such force that the holster's rivets popped out. Several shots were fired. Marty was shot in the chest, but kept fighting until help arrived. Marty was killed by his own gun. When asked why, the killer said he did not like anyone in uniform. This was the first police funeral I attended. Also in attendance was the late Bud Doggett, owner of Doggett's Parking and a pillar of the Washington business community. A hat was passed around to collect money for Marty's widow. Bud was astonished to learn that many of the families had no financial recourse when their loved ones died in the line of duty. As a result, Bud and several other business people created Heroes Incorporated, which is now operated by his wife, Sherry Doggett. Is Sherry here? Haven't seen her. I'm sorry. Heroes was originally established to support the families of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. However, it soon included the D.C. firefighters. Heroes has grown now and supports the spouses and children of police firefighters, of the police, firefighters, and federal law enforcement officers who gave their lives in the line of duty throughout the greater Washington, D.C. community. I encourage you all to read about their amazing story on our website and how Heroes Incorporated has cared for the wives, husbands, and children of many fallen police, firefighters, and federal law enforcement officers. I'm sure no one has forgotten their first officer after becoming a police officer who was killed. I know I haven't. I attended all 30 funerals of the D.C. officers killed in the line of duty, and while I was on the job, and several others from surrounding jurisdictions. At each funeral, I witnessed the sorrow and heartbreak of the wives, husbands, children, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers. But sadly, the horror did not end there. 9 years after I retired, I lost a close friend and former precinct and robbery squad colleague who was shot dead without warning while sitting at his desk inside the building behind me. He was in charge of the homicide squad's old case unit and was reading old case files. Martha Martinez and Michael Miller of the FBI were also killed. And Agent John Kuchta was seriously wounded when a 22-year-old madman who was wanted on a warrant for murder suddenly threw open the office door and without warning began firing his gun. This was at the time before building security of the screening of the public. The Metropolitan Police Headquarters was later named in honor of my friend, the Henry J. Daly Building. And now for the rest of the story about Shirley Gibson. Shortly after starting this organization, I met this remarkable woman. My wife and I are proud to have called her our friend. Shirley was the mother of Master Patrol Officer Brian Gibson, who was shot and killed, again like Hank Daly, without warning and for no apparent reason other than they were police officers, or like Marty Donovan, just wearing a uniform. Brian was shot 4 times at close range in the back of the head as he sat in his patrol car in northwest Washington simply writing police reports. After Shirley was able to get beyond the initial shock and control of the many tears, she saw a need to devote her life to helping others who sadly were facing the same kind of loss. So she started the D.C. chapter of the National Association of Concerned Police Survivors, also known as COPS. She later became the national president of COPS, traveling throughout the United States, visiting police departments in small and large cities. She told the story that everywhere she traveled, one of the first things the many officers wanted to do was show her their police memorial. In her video presentation, which you can view on our website, you will hear her complain that in our city, the capital city of our nation, it does not have its own police memorial to honor my son, or all of the sons and daughters who died in the line of duty, serving you and serving me. All of the people who live and work in the district and the thousands who visit this great city. Shirley accompanied me to all of the meetings with the district and federal government officials. I learned early on that no one would ever say no to Shirley. To Mayor Bowser and to the D.C. government, we thank you for allowing us to continue using this land to renovate the D.C. Police Department's historic memorial fountain and build this beautiful new police memorial wall. As Shirley said, in an area befitting to our fallen, and in the city where other historic memorials and parks are located, then and only then will the families of the officers, Marty Donovan, Hank Daly, Brian Gibson, the parents of Paul Didymo, board member Hector Didymo, representing D.C. Cops, and his wife Teresa, or the parents of Officer James McBride, Ken and Jean McBride, who continue to support the Memorial Fund annually, and the mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children, relatives, and friends of our fallen have a suitable place to go to pay homage. We must never allow these men and women to be forgotten. Our goal was to renovate the memorial fountain, build a new memorial wall, using the same protocols used in 1942. They used donated funds only. I am so pleased to say we accomplished our goal, and the funding has come from the active and retired MBD officers, citizens like you and me, and business people like Don Graham. We're so proud of so many retired officers and the major donors such as the Police Federal Credit Union, the D.C. Police Labor Committee, the D.C. Crime Solvers and Friends, who have stepped forward to support our efforts but by providing seed money that has allowed us to develop the drawings, get them approved, and enter to the final stages of construction. We are so pleased to have the support from one of our own, Mr. Don Graham. Don is very proud. He was a member of the Washington, D.C. Police Department in the early 70s. We are too. And we are so thankful for your extraordinarily generosity. Because of his support, and only because of his support, we accomplished our goals. These men and women who gave their all deserve to be remembered just like the ones described by Shirley Gibson when she visited the small towns, cities, and counties across this great country of ours. They remembered their members in blue, and we cannot forget ours. Thank you for listening, and I thank you in advance for your friendship and final support. Remember what I said at the opening. It is the police who protect the sheep from the wolves. May God bless these men and women who wear the badge and uniform, for they are our peacemakers and our protectors. And blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. I'm now pleased to introduce Mr. Danny Hickson, a retired member of MPD and a commander, now an assistant with Chief Conti. Danny is also president of the DC chapter of Concerns of Police Survivors. He will read the list of our 125 fallen. Please follow along in the program. As the names are read, we welcome the moms and dads, wives and husbands and children, and relatives and friends to stand as the name of the fallen officer is read. After reading each name, Mr. Hector Dittimo, father of fallen Officer Paul Dittimo, will ring the bell. The sounding of the bell is to remember, honor, and commemorate each fallen officer described in the worst 6 words of our English language: killed in the line of duty. The tolling of the bell has a history going back to 1000 AD. There are many definitions for tolling of the bells. We see and hear them every year when we remember the victims of September 11, 2001. The bell will sound after each name of our fallen is read as a symbol of remembrance. Remembrance of the officer, honor, to honor the officer and his badge, and hope. We hope we never have additional officers killed in the line of duty. Danny? Oh. I'm just going to leave that here. Take it on over.
The founding father of the Metropolitan Police Department, President Abraham Lincoln, looks down upon this memorial site from across the street at the historic District of Columbia Court of Appeals. With undying gratitude, we shall never forget the sacrifices of our fallen and their families. This police memorial fountain and wall are dedicated in their memory and to law enforcement officers everywhere who gave their lives to keep the public secure in their communities. Officer Francis M. Doyle, December 29, 1871. Officer Robert Fleet, August 20, 1874. Officer John H. Fowler, September 9, 1884. Officer Americus N. Crippen, November 5, 1889. Officer Adolphus C. Constantine, September 10, 1891. Officer Junus B. Slack, November 27, 1891. Sergeant Frederick M. Passau, May 17, 1899. Officer John J. Smith, July 7, 1904. Officer William E. Yeaton, November 9, 1908. Captain William H. Matthews, March 5, 1909. Officer Eugene C. Smith, January 1, 1910. Officer William C. Farquhar, October 22, 1913. Officer Willie R. Gowan, March 2, 1915. Officer John A. Conrad, May 21, 1918. Lieutenant David T. Donegan, May 21, 1918. Officer Lester M. Kidwell, July 11, 1918. Detective Harry Wilson, July 21, 1919. Special Officer Isaac Wolf Halbfinger, July 22, 1919. Officer James E. Armstrong, December 20, 1919. Officer Oscar A. McKimmey, January 17, 1920. Officer Preston E. Bradley, February 21, 1921. Officer Samuel C. Hayden, February 27, 1921. Officer George D. Chin, October 10, 1921. Officer Edmund P. Kelleher, January 10, 1922. Officer Frederick G. Stang, February 28, 1923. Officer John W. Purcell, October 10, 1923. Officer Raymond C. Lissinger, August 28, 1924. Officer Claude C. Kuntz, November 30th, 1925. Officer Earl A. Skinner, June 9th, 1926. Officer Leo W. K. Bush, September 28th, 1926. Officer James G. Helm, February 11th, 1928. Officer Claude O. Rope, October 14th, 1928. Officer John F. McAuliffe, January 1st, 1929. Officer William S. Buchanan, April 18th, 1929. Officer Harry J. McDonald, July 22nd, 1929. Officer Edgar P. Alexander, November 16th, 1929. Officer Ross H. Kaler, December 12th, 1929. Officer Frederick W. Bauer, June 6, 1930. Officer Frank J. Scoville, September 24th, 1930. Officer Jesse L. Taylor, May 17th, 1931. Officer Charles D. Poole, August 4th, 1931. Officer Arthur H. Gelhart, August 8th, 1931. Officer Elmer A. Swanson, July 6, 1932. Officer George W. Chenault, August 14, 1932. Officer Raymond V. Sinclair, December 28, 1934. Officer Frank L. Nussbaum, February 16, 1936. Officer Paul W. Jones, March 14, 1936. Officer Ernest T. Wessels, April 23, 1938. Officer Richard T. Conklin, June 5, 1938. Officer Raymond E. Grant, August 14, 1939. Officer Robert W. Davis, January 1st, 1940. Sergeant Charles F. Cummins, Jr., June 12, 1940. Officer Yule M. Gale, August 19, 1940. Officer Irvin Roseberg, February 14, 1942. Officer Charles R. Johnston, May 9, 1943. Officer William J. Weston, Jr., March 4, 1945. Officer Donald W. Downs, September 1, 1946. Officer Harry E. Hamilton, November 1, 1946. Officer Richard H. Taylor, December 13, 1946. Officer Hubert W. Estes, May 16, 1947. Officer Mortimer P. O'Donohue, September 15, 1948. Officer Grady A. Beecham, December 2, 1948. Officer George W. Cassells, July 12, 1953. Officer Lester G. Myers, November 1, 1958. Officer Henry K. Shelton, May 3, 1959. Officer Donald J. Breaton, January 7, 1960. Officer Terrell M. Dodson, April 17, 1960. Detective Sergeant James Roach, June 30, 1962. Officer Elmer L. Hunter, March 20, 1963. Officer David G. Higginbotham, December 7, 1963. Officer Robert D. Handworth, January 24, 1964. Officer Martin I. Donovan, July 9, 1964. Officer Marcus P. Willis, December 27, 1965. Officer Marvin L. Stocker, March 23, 1966. Officer Russell W. Ponton, May 2, 1967. Detective Gilbert M. Sylvia, November 25, 1967. Officer Lawrence L. Dorsey, February 2, 1968. Officer Eugene I. Williams, February 27, 1968. Officer Stephen A. Williams, July 2, 1968. Officer Willie C. Ivory, Jr., November 15, 1968. Officer Michael J. Cody, July 14, 1969. Officer David C. Hallfield, July 17, 1969. Detective Alan L. Nairn, November 30th, 1969. Officer David H. Rose, February 20th, 1971. Officer Glenn P. Fisher, March 10th, 1971. Officer Jarrett F. Young, May 21st, 1971. Officer William L. Sigmund, May 25th, 1971. Officer Jerry W. Morris, December 4th, 1971. Officer Dana E. Harwood, September 25th, 1972. Officer Ronnie W. Hassel, December 2nd, 1972. Officer George D. Jones, Jr., March 24th, 1973. Officer Gail A. Cobb, December 20th, 1974. Sergeant Michael J. Ackrey, October 16th, 1976. Officer Bruce W. Wilson, April 26, 1977. Officer Bernice Carr, Jr., February 16, 1978. Officer Richard F. Geiger, June 6, 1979. Officer Alfred V. Jackson, June 6, 1979. Officer Arthur P. Snyder, February 12, 1980. Officer Donald G. Lunnan, September 14, 1982. Officer Robert K. Bess, December 15, 1982. Officer Raymond E. Mumford, March 11, 1983. Sergeant Joseph M. Canoyer, January 29, 1985. Officer Kevin J. Welsh, August 4, 1986. Officer Robert Remington, May 19, 1987. Officer James L. Gordon, December 14, 1987. Officer Ernest C. Ricks III, May 17, 1989. Officer Jason E. White, December 30th, 1993. Sergeant Henry J. Daly, November 22nd, 1994. Officer James H. McGee, Jr., February 7th, 1995. Officer Scott S. Lewis, October 9th, 1995. Officer Anthony W. Sims, June 3rd, 1996. Master Patrol Officer Brian T. Gibson, February 5th, 1997. Officer Oliver W. Smith, Jr., February 26, 1997. Officer Robert L. Johnson, Jr., April 27, 1997. Officer Thomas F. Hamlet, Jr., July 18, 1998. Sergeant John S. Ashley, May 30th, 2004. Sergeant Clifton Rife II, June 2nd, 2004. Reserve Sergeant Joseph Kozel, May 17, 2005. Officer James C. McBride, August 10, 2005. Sergeant Jarrett W. Burke, Jr., March 23, 2006. Officer Wayne C. Pitt, April 10, 2007. Officer Paul M. Didymo, October 30th, 2010. Sergeant Mark R. Eckenrode, April 6, 2020. Sergeant Donna L. Allen, April 8, 2020. Senior Officer Keith D. Williams, Sr., June 6, 2020.
Please stand now for the presentation of the colors. The cadets now will unveil the memorial. Chief Conti and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Lindsay Appiah will now lay a wreath at the site of the memorial. Please remain standing for the retiring of the colors. You may take your seats. I'm going to bring back Don Blake.
I will now recite the poem, We Remember. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Please join me for a moment of silence. Hector. Hector. The bell. I want to ring the bell one time. Wait, real quick. Thank you. Thank you everybody for coming to this historic event. We invite you to join us for refreshments inside of the old City Council chambers again, directly behind you at 441 4th Street. Please take a moment to meet the dignitaries that were with us today and all of the former chiefs. The pipe and drum corps will now play, I think. Maybe not. Well, that concludes our event. Thank everybody for coming, and God bless you all.